Hello. Welcome to the Mama's Den. This is Cody.
Hi, this is Ashley Chia.
With her soprano voice.
Right.
Hey, this is Melanie Fiona.
Hello, this is Felicia Latour. And we are
The Mama's Den.
That's
We're
so
singing.
corny.
Sorry.
We're never
Sorry,
going to
we
that
missed
again.
So we have like the specialist of special guests.
specialist.
Yes, specialist.
The specialist in all forms of the
Oh,
word.
it's a double entendre.
Yeah, she's the specialist of specialists of special guests.
Yes. I love that for you.
Yes.
Come on,
We're just
writer.
going to stand Kim Durdin today because she's amazing. She and her partner Allegra Hill own a Black-owned birth center. Now, I always like mess it up. Is it like the only Black-owned birth center in California or like the country?
That's a really good question. It's the only Black-owned birth center in Los Angeles right now. We're not the first, but we are the only currently Black-owned birth center. I'm going to say in Southern California, I know that there's a beautiful Black midwifery community up in the Bay Area. And I'm not sure if there's a birth center up there. So I'll just keep it clean.
Well, Los
I'm not
Angeles,
sure.
you're very fortunate.
Wait, I have one important question before we go. When I saw you, what did we go to with
Went
Elaine?
to the Bobby event with Elaine Welteroth.
There was only one thing that was throwing me the whole time. I did not know it's midwifery.
Yes.
I thought it was midwifery. How are you a midwife, but it's wifery?
I don't know. It's the English language.
Word to be word.
It's the English language.
English
I was like,
however it wants.
I'm like, so is it a midwife?
Girl.
If
We lost the E.
you said midwifery, we would know what you were talking
Yes.
about.
I
'cause
know,
a
but
lot
you
of
don't want
people
to say the
that.
right word.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's midwifery. Whatever. Like, it's English. But that said, that everybody doesn't call what we do midwifery or midwife. Different cultures, different countries, different languages have different names for women that do what we want. As a matter of fact, I was talking to someone recently and they were saying, oh, and France and in like West Africa, we call midwives sage femme, which means wise woman.
Oh, right.
And then also what I thought was interesting is my indigenous midwife sisters say that in the indigenous folks of this land, Native American folks of this land, that they don't have a name for a midwife. Like there is no name for
Call it
midwife.
birth
There's
child.
only a name for the place where you give birth, but not the person that's attending. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
Because it's birth.
Right.
right.
It's the process.
Right.
It's what's necessary.
It is.
You're just
I'm here
there.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I would
dope.
love that.
I love that.
So, we brought you because you just are like amazing and wonderful and we just love being around. Well, let's also talk about how many children do you have?
Right.
And their ages.
I have 6 children, or half a dozen. Half a dozen kids.
Half a dozen kids. Ashley, somebody got you.
I'm about to say,
I
you
know,
on your
thank
way.
you.
You're close, Ashley.
No, I'm not.
You're very
just have
close,
4.
Ashley. You're 2/3 of the way there.
No, I don't receive that. But you look bomb and beautiful to be having 6 kids, too.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
girl.
But I have 6 kids. I have 5 grandkids now, which is super amazing and fun. And like, that's even more like next level. And my grandson was hanging out this weekend with me. And it's just like, sometimes I'm like, you my grandson. You're like, I didn't even birth you, but you're still kind of like my son.
Yeah.
It's like you get like these kids that you didn't have to give birth to,
Right.
but they're still your kids.
That's
It's deep.
Yeah.
It is deep.
Another level.
Beautiful.
My mom always says that grandkids are the best. She said, if I'd have known grandchildren were so much fun, I would have had them first.
For real. And you know what else? It's like, the funny thing is like, sometimes I get in trouble for the lack of like parenting that I do.
I was
with my
about to say that. I'm
grandkids.
like, do you get in trouble?
Oh my God, I get in trouble because like, kind of like, I don't know who's going to be watching this. Well, they already know because I'm in trouble. They're like, Mom, can you like supervise my kid when they're at your house? And I'm like, they're fine.
Yeah.
They are happy. They're doing what they want to do. And they're like, yeah. And like, can they eat some meals instead of just like junk food or candy? Which I would never do that with my kids.
Yeah,
Of course.
But
absolutely.
with them, it's so crazy. It's
That's
like,
hilarious.
I just want them
It's
to
a
be happy.
compulsion.
I just want them to have a safe space to just hang out, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't everyone need that?
Yeah.
Like a place where you go and you're just like,
I love it there.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like when
Yeah.
my grandson was over this weekend, I was like, the next day after he slept over the first night and then turned it into 2 nights, which is fine with me, he was wearing the same clothing. And I was about to bring him back to his parents' house. And I'm like, dude, you're about to get me in trouble. I need you to take a shower. Can you take a shower? Did you brush your teeth before you go back home?
Right.
Judah, you about to get me in trouble. He's like, Noni, Noni.
Calls you Noni.
I sometimes wear my clothes like overnight until the next day. I'm like, I know, but this is not cool for like when I take you back to your house, right? And you haven't brushed your teeth and you haven't changed your clothes. You gonna get me in trouble,
right?
He's like, but it's fine.
Do you feel like you are this way, like you're more relaxed because you realize that like some of the things that we tend to stress over as parents are not that important in the grand scheme of things?
Totally.
So
that's such a great question.
You feel like you have like you take away that pressure we felt as like when you're a first time parent to give that ease to yourself and your grandchildren with that relationship.
Thank you for asking that question, because if anything, since I'm older than y'all.
Don't look at me.
Y'all gave me the soft chair.
You're doing this to yourself at this point.
Y'all gave me the soft chair to protect my bones and my muscles that are aging.
We are being respectful to our guests.
What I'm here to tell y'all is like really, like if that is like something that I can like gift y'all and gift anybody who's listening is like, we be stressing too much. To answer your question, my kids' ages are 31, 28, soon to be 29. 20, what's that one other one's ages?
It's always the third
25. 25. 22, 18, and my youngest is 11.
Wow.
I had her
an 11-year-old.
My 11-year-old I had at home when I was 46 years old.
Wow.
Don't let anybody
That's
tell you it
amazing.
can't be
So
be
what?
done.
I have a question.
Wait. Yes, darling.
Because she's 11 and Judah is
10.
your grandson is 10.
Yeah.
So I want to know.
Yeah.
How do you parent?
Right. Oh.
The parent grandparent.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Like with my youngest, who's 11, also she's unschooled, right? Has been unschooled. Like the child don't know nothing for school. Her school is what we're learning together, what she learns on her own. And that's a whole nother topic. But
Oh my gosh, I'm fascinated.
very relaxed with her.
What's the last
one? So she can wear her clothes for 2 days
Were
straight.
your other kids
Pretty much. What did
were
you
your
say?
other kids unschooled as well?
Honestly, I always wanted to homeschool my kids, but I had a lot of kids, and when they're all little, that was just
It's
I was
overwhelming.
like, we need a school for you because I'm about to lose my mind. But as they got older, like they were all able to come out or supplement their education in some way or form that was like homeschooled or independent study or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Okay.
And so my youngest two, my number 5 child and my number 6 child, are actually homeschooled. They've been homeschooled for quite some time. So my number 5 child is in college this year, but his last 2 years of high school, he was homeschooled. And he decided to come out. I was encouraging him to come out of school, and he decided to come out right before the pandemic. And so it like worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because,
when you say come out of school, you mean leave like the public school system and become homeschooled?
Leave school walls. Yeah, that's what I call
I
it.
homeschool my kids. I've always homeschooled all of them.
Wonderful.
I was homeschooled. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
I love it too. It's
I love
hard, but when you said like trying to homeschool them all together, I actually hired someone
Oh, yeah.
this year to help me from like 10 to 1, but she's still like doing my curriculum. But I had a baby and I was like, nah.
Yeah, no.
This is like my brain can't function
It doesn't,
anymore.
and I'm not able to like sit down with my youngest or even my high schooler. He was in a program, so he was very like independently driven. He couldn't handle his stuff, and that was wonderful. My youngest is very much like, these kids are the kids of tomorrow.
Yep.
They are not the kids of now.
Yeah.
And we have to step out of the way and understand like they got this.
Right.
They got this in such a way that we just
1,000%.
right. And also, like, I don't have to worry about what the school's teaching. I mostly have to worry about what they're looking at online.
Girl.
It's almost easier to monitor that
yeah.
because it's in my house. I don't have to go down, make an appointment, talk, try to convince, blah, blah, blah. It's like we're in control and she's in control of what she wants to learn. And she's teaching me new things every day. She probably got it off TikTok, but
It's so interesting to hear. Kim, I've known you for a while now. I did not know you had an 11-year-old.
yeah. So just
Wow.
saying that, also my parenting with her, and I think even her siblings, sometimes are like, well, you can let us get away with that. Yeah. But it's just different. Even from the oldest, who's 31, my daughter Yanni, who's friends with Cody and all of that.
The other day.
Yes.
She's so beautiful.
She's amazing.
And she has 4 kids.
She has 4 kids. Yeah, she's 4 out of the 5 are her and Bobby's.
Your tribe is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like so
Thank you.
so rich in even just meeting your brother and
Yes.
like then meeting your daughter. And I met your mom.
I know.
She's beautiful.
Selma,
Everybody
Miss Selma.
loves her so much. I mean,
She told me she would pray for my children. I showed her a picture of them and she was like, I will pray for your children. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so sweet. And and to that, I would love to like for you to share. This makes a lot of sense, I think, for your legacy of not what you have built personally, but professionally, because your purpose and passion for birth and women and what that experience is has affected literally all of us here. We're aware of your work. You helped me find my last birthing team. You delivered Cody's babies.
I didn't deliver.
Oh, you didn't?
Cody delivered her.
Well,
babies.
okay, well, right.
Cody did
That is
that.
your relationship. So it's so like, I want to know, and at that event with the Bobby event, you shared how you discovered that you wanted to be in birth care.
Right.
So please share that story because I think it's so beautiful that this
story
just
was it? I don't
this
even
was
know.
when we
It
were looking
changes
through
from
the
day to
magazine.
day, honestly.
You were looking through the magazine.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yes.
Yeah,
And your cousin, I believe, is your cousin who had just passed away.
Well, looking through the magazine and seeing an image of a Black midwife of the South, when the person that I saw was Maud Collin, if you want to look her up, someone did a Life magazine story on her. And I looked at that when I was a child and sitting in my grandmother's living room because all there was to read, right? And I don't know about y'all's grandma, but my grandma was grandpa.
I had Reader's Digest.
That was there too.
Time magazine.
I never read that. That was
National
boring.
Geographic.
Yeah, we had a few National Geographic. We had Life.
Life.
We had Ebony. We had Jet. And in Life magazine, I happened upon, this story. I saw this beautiful Black woman, elder, taking care of her community. And it really struck me like, and I kind of like intuitively understood that, what a midwife was. Like, I don't know how I understood that, but somehow I always knew like there was these ladies, right? These wise women that helped you deliver your baby. And so I was a kid and then I saw Life magazine. And so it kind of cemented it for me. And so I knew eventually like, oh yeah, well, that's how I'm going to have my babies. Right. But in terms of coming to midwifery myself, there was another story that
Your cousin,
my
you had a cousin.
my cousin passed away. I already had kids then, so now I'm an adult.
Oh wow!
And I think I had 3 kids going on number 4 when my cousin, who was a little bit younger than me, I got the news. I knew she was pregnant. I was living in Virginia. She was living in Jersey, and again, I'm just expecting to get. My aunties are calling me because they're telling me some great news.
Right.
She had the baby, right? And I mean, they were calling me to tell me that. And they were also calling me to tell me that she died 2 weeks after. So that, I was already doing birth work at that time. And no one was talking about maternal mortality at that time for Black women. And I was just talking to a woman today who was interviewing to come into care with our business, Kindred Space LA. And she was talking about, I probably can share this, that she was interviewing to come into care with us. She's a pregnant person. And she said that she just lost her cousin in childbirth. And that, she's so afraid. And it was funny because I had already put on this shirt. And if you can see it.
It says, Black birthing joy is your birthright.
Right.
That is what the shirt says.
And this shirt was sent to me by my friend, Kimberly Sears Allers.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to represent what she's doing and uplift her because this is also, we have to like root ourselves in this energy when we're talking about all this kind of death and whatnot that is going on. But as I said to the young lady today, first of all, I said, look at the shirt that I put on right now. I turned the phone around and so that she could see it and read it. I was like, this is your mantra, right? But that said, I said, what's happening now is not new. This has been going on for quite some time. Just like police brutality. It did not just start.
Right.
But I said to her from the bottom of my heart, but we gonna fix this. We gonna fix this. Okay? And we are.
Can you explain to like some of the listeners that aren't all the way familiar, like what's happening in these experiences with Black women, and when they're going in, or whether really if it's like going into the hospital or they're not being heard? Like, can you talk us through some of those experiences that you personally know?
Well, I mean, you said it pretty much. It's like going in and not being heard. And honestly, you know, this might be a little controversial, but it's true. It's not just Black women, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just maternity care.
Yeah.
Just really listen to what's going on in our medical system. Our healthcare system is crumbling. It's falling apart. It's and you know, that said, there's so many great people in this healthcare system. Like, please, I do not want to throw those folks out in the trash, because those folks that are really holding it together are really they're really making it possible that not everybody is dying when they walk into the hospital, no matter what they're going in there for.
Do you feel like it's intentional? Do you ever feel like because they're working in that field, there's like a bit of numbness? Because I've had my experience with postpartum with my child, with my firstborn, Peace, and she's now 8. And let me break it down. Okay, so I went into labor with her, and there was a nurse that was there, a woman, and I was like, it's painful, you know, it's uncomfortable, it's new, it's my first child. And she looked at me and was like, why do you keep screaming? And I looked and I was like, because I'm having a baby. And I had to tell the doctor, and I was like, I don't want her in here. I'm like, please just get her out. I just turned into like Mama Bear, you know? And so fast forward to me having my child and then going through postpartum and
postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression, and not really understanding what I was really experiencing. You know, I just know that I felt very out of place. And I also think it came with just, it's all new. My body's new. The hormones are all, like, it's just a whole collective of things. Yeah. So instead of me going straight to Western medicine, I went to Eastern medicine. And so I have experience of both, because I don't, like you're saying, I don't think all Western is just throw it in the trash. I think that there's a lot of very beautiful people that are there, that care, that are not numb. Yes. And a lot of them also, I noticed, have roots of like Eastern, which I feel like I started to get very lucky. So now when I go into these Western medicine places, such as a Kaiser or something, I always get connected with like the right person, you know? So I do feel like sometimes though in Western medicine, this numbness, or like, I don't really know what the word is, but it's almost like the compassion and empathy for just like us being humans and what we're going through. They look at it a little bit differently,
right?
You
it's
know,
just very clinical.
Yeah,
there's no personal.
Well,
care.
there's a numbness that comes with. There's also some. You know, we all have a way to build up our strength to be able to get up and go to work every day. Yeah. And becoming numb to things is one of those kind of like trauma responses.
Right. Yeah. Survival.
And so there's also, you know, so much vicarious trauma even in, you know, the work that I do. It's beautiful, right? But you know, I don't want to just like make this a hospital birth thing, but I have had more vicarious trauma witnessing certain things in the hospital. Yeah. When I've been there to support a person, because I know that it can be a different way and it doesn't have to be like that. So that's tough. That has fucked me up. Yeah. You know, for days where I'm just like, I'm out, y'all. Yeah. And I mean, that the parent may not have experienced it like I experienced it. Yeah. But that said, even if I'm in a setting with my own clients where I have to handle an emergency, which I've had to do, that's part of our job, right? I don't experience the trauma in such a deep way because I'm actively I can do something. I'm doing something to make it better. So even if it's a tough situation, you know, like sometimes we have a tough situation and Allegra will be like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm good. And I'll be good. And it's just different. Maybe the powerlessness of just watching something happen, you can't do anything about it. And I think that healthcare, people in the healthcare system, you know, they are building that shit up from schooling on. Yeah. It doesn't start when they graduate and now they're practicing as a nurse or a physician. Like they're building up that shell, you know, in order to do what they do. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's definitely there. And I think that it's making me emotional. I'm getting a little shivery. But
I think that's, I feel like we're supposed to. Not supposed to, but you get what I'm saying?
I think it really lends to the fact that the systems are putting all people, human beings, in very vulnerable positions and just being like, you just have to deal with it. The same as like when people go into the military and they go to war and they do crazy stuff. And what kind of support system do they really have at the end of the day to help them get through that? And at the end of the day, why is it like that? Why is the system like that? Like, that's the part that we have to start breaking down. Yeah. Why is the system set up that you as a provider have to see 60 clients a day, have to have however many births a month? And so now you got to make it assembly line. Right. And then you have to turn a blind, you know, what people do to go through medical school. I mean, the loans they take out, the things that they owe at the end of the day just to be able to practice as a doctor, and you're going to throw all that away because shit is crazy. You know, it's not possible for everyone to just walk away. So I think a lot of these things, these walls get built up in people just because they're trying to cope.
I think part of it too, right? There's like a lot of conversations to be had, right? There's the system and like, why is it set up this way? But I think as like moms and aunties and sisters and grandmamas, to me, it's like finding the empowerment in learning that we have choices and options, right? Like, what do we have control over? Because we can't change the medical system. Right. Well, like solo. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're pregnant right now, you're not going to make that change in 9 months. You're not going to change the system. Right. But we are able to share ways to have like care that made us feel good or safe, you know? And so to me, like, that's part of the importance of having a conversation with you, because frankly, a lot of people don't understand the options that they have. Yeah. Like I was going to make a joke about some people, we still learning midwifery. And, but I'm not trying to give you a hard time as much as to say even the word, I'm really not, Ashley, as much as to say even the word is not used enough for you, a woman with 4 kids, to know it. Right. You know what I mean?
I've never heard anyone say it like that until you said it. I just heard people say midwife anyway. Yeah. They didn't use it like as an adjective or anything else. You know what I mean?
I think the power is in understanding that we have options.
Yeah. For sure. And the power of knowing that like all of us have the power to take control of our own individual experiences. So I feel like you were really good at that.
So all of us. But, I also say that because anyone who's listening now, a lot of our listeners are women who do not have children or people who don't have children yet. And I think it's really important that we like create a space right now to differentiate what is the difference between a doula, a midwife, an OB, and like, what does that mean? Because I absolutely, for many regards, just thought, okay, if I want to squat down and have a baby in the forest, I will. Yeah. And then my birthing experience did not go that way. Yeah. Then when I got pregnant again, I was like, I am absolutely going to explore my choices. And that's how I connected with you. And then I started looking into birthing centers and interviewing midwives and having these different conversations. And I actually essentially ended up with a wonderful OB. I do not regret that experience at all that you referred me to, which I also think is super important, that there's often this like big, great divide between what it is, more so that there can be a harmonious,
absolutely.
The goal is safe birthing for all people. Yep. So anyone who's listening, some people don't know. Some people think that doulas deliver babies. Yep. I know I did before I had a doula. Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about that so that the people, they understand what their options are.
I'll start with doulas because doulas are getting a lot of like airspace right now, which is great. And a doula is a non-medical person that supports a birthing person on their pregnancy journey. So in the postpartum, in the birth, typically in person, physically supporting, also in the postpartum. And also is there for education for the client, advocacy, which is that's a whole nother thing. As doulas of color, as birth workers of color and Black folks, we know that we need advocacy in our birthing spaces. And let's just say predominantly dominant culture, white doula organizations have not promoted advocacy as a role of a doula. And we definitely push back against that as BIPOC birth workers. So doulas don't do anything medical. So hopefully everyone in the world can see this. Doulas don't do anything medical. Doulas don't catch your baby. That's not their role. That's not what they're there. That's not what they signed up for. But their role and what they have signed up for is of huge importance.
Incredibly important. Yes.
So good for the birthing person, the family, I would say in even your experience, like a doula could have been like the one to say, go and get who would have gone and got somebody else for you. So you wouldn't have to take that on as a person in labor, right?
Yeah.
So doulas, we love them. They're also now being able to be covered by Medicare or Medi-Cal throughout the country.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
That's just up-leveling. Those systems are just being put into place. But that is a thing now. And we're all trying to figure out how to get the system to work properly, but it is a thing. Also,
that's fire.
Yeah, it is, right?
I'm like, wait, we all need that and nanny.
Yeah.
Everybody gets one of these.
Agreed.
Yes. I had a doula after I had Tata, and I had a friend who lost a baby, and I got her a doula for
like a lost doula. Right. That's awesome.
which was amazing.
And just understanding that there are
doula?
quite a
Lost
few
doula.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
doulas.
beautiful.
Yeah.
There's, as you said, postpartum. There's
full
those
spectrum,
that
which handles everything like
Yeah.
loss, birth, abortion doulas.
I had a doula for my birth, and it was really, really important. And I was glad because I ended up with the emergency C-section with my son, and we had developed such a relationship that when I knew it was time to make that decision, because I was resisting the whole time, she looked at me and she said, go get your baby.
Yeah.
She said, don't. And when I looked at her, I knew she was not going to be the person that was going to absolutely be like, have the seeds. Like, so when she looked at me and said, it's okay, I felt, okay, my birthing assist person that's here with me is giving me the reassurance that this is what needs to be done.
Totally.
And that's why it was super important for me in that time.
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good support.
Yeah, that is.
And then a midwife is someone who is actually a medical person. So think outside the box when you think medical, because midwives, depending on how they're licensed, are able to do different kind of medical things. So I'm a certified professional midwife and a licensed midwife. And in California, that means that I get to deliver babies, or catch babies, which is like super fun. Or more so, I get to watch people deliver babies, deliver their babies. I get to take care of people in the prenatal period. And I also take care of people in the postpartum period. And so I'm trained to know what's normal and to know what's not normal and to kind of triage from there. So some things that are not in normal range, midwives can certainly handle, can certainly treat. And other things need a physician. And so what I think midwives are really great at is, number one, working with normal, low-risk people and keeping them that way, or enhancing their ability to be even more normal and low risk, right? Like adding value to their health journey and their experience, the pregnancy journey and their health, right? In the pregnancy, the birth, and the postpartum, and even sometimes prenatally, right? Like, I want to get pregnant. How do I prepare myself for that sort of thing? Also, again, like figuring out like, this doesn't seem normal. And what I'd like to do is refer you to someone who can give us a better understanding of what's going on and better support you. And, that's something that we do really well, because therefore we do need physicians. We need OBs who are specialized in OBGYN care and who can do things like surgeries, which we don't do. I mean, the main surgery that we do as midwives is stitching a vagina if it needs some stitching after a birth. But other than that, we're not doing.
I didn't know you guys could do that, because that's always been okay. So I make really big babies.
Awesome.
My daughter was 8'11" and my son was 9'10". So everybody was like, are you going to have a natural birth? I'm like, no. I was just, but I didn't know.
When you say natural, you mean unmedicated?
Unmedicated.
Unmedicated, okay.
Yes. I was like, yeah, no, go ahead, hit me with that. Hit me in the back. Hit me with that epidural, cuz baby. But they tore me. I don't know. I think it's an episiotomy. Yeah,
that's their stitch, right?
Yeah, and
No,
there's, like,
you're
degrees.
saying the
episiotomy is
doctor-
when
they cut it.
Oh, it's when they cut you.
But I think I've heard that they can't cut you anymore. That
Well,
it's like
okay,
or certain hospitals. I don't know.
Episiotomies were like very big for a period of time, but they definitely fell out of favor. Most people aren't cutting episiotomies. What we know, so episiotomy is a cut to widen the vaginal opening. But
Before the baby comes
let's change. Let's just talk about. Let's just shift it a little bit. Let's shift some things a little bit. There's a lot of questions coming, and I just want to back up a little bit, I guess. Most people, what we know is that if a person's skin gives way in the birthing process when they're pushing their baby out, even though sometimes it's a little harder to repair if they need repair, meaning stitching, it's better on the healing. The healing, it heals better if we're able to just let the skin give way like it's going to give way.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why episiotomy has fallen out of favor. And also because of folks getting educated and realizing like one is maybe more, preferred over the other, tearing preferred over episiotomy in most cases, right? And so they started advocating for themselves because of people like doulas, because of people who are into birth, who have done the research and are like, hey, the medical system is saying this, but all the research is saying this, or our experience is saying this. And so people started speaking up and saying, do you cut? I don't want you to cut me. So I'm going to find another doctor or but all that to say, listen. Right. So what I find in physiologic birth, I'm not going to call it natural birth. I'm going to call it physiologic birth, which is basically birthing without any added medications on board or any pain relief necessarily on board. What I witness and what I think most of us witness is that people tear less.
I was going to say
and when
that.
they tear, if they do tear, it's at such a small degree that we don't even stitch it. Because believe it or not, you probably already know that vaginas are magical, right?
Girl.
I mean, we all know that, right?
I said, child, I know what they mean when they say pussy is power. The way this thing went from a cave back to
Wait,
exactly.
V, did they cut you?
No. They can't. At Kaiser, they don't do it.
They don't do it.
Okay.
But
yeah, you can't do it.
They'll only do it if it's an emergency.
Them kids is big and this coach was tiny. Okay?
Right. But that's your body didn't like get invented in your lifetime. Like this body has this idea of this body has been like worked out over time.
Yeah.
And we are made to do that, right? To give birth. And so that part of your body is designed for the birthing process.
Yeah.
And that's the part where the education comes to play. Like a doula that can help you understand that before your birth or your midwife, people who have the time to talk with you about all these things. Like you guys have given me like 10 questions. I'm not going to be able to answer them all, but it's the questions like that people need to have fleshed out in their pregnancy. All your questions need to be answered. And to take it back to the system currently the way it is, there's no time for that.
Yeah.
There's no time. Even if your doctor knows, they ain't got time to talk to you about it.
Right.
So again, I don't want to like vilify the people that are out here really trying to do the good work.
Yeah.
It's really what we need to attack is the way the system is set up, and we can change that.
Yeah.
We can get more vocal. Every time you have an experience at a healthcare provider or a hospital or midwifery clinic or whatever, you can give feedback. The hospital wants your feedback. Sometimes they're going to pay you for your feedback. All of us can make a change. All of us, if you have a voice, if you had a bad experience, you had a good experience, use your voice to help make change. Yeah. Use your voice to call your insurance company and say, no, like the way you have this set up is not working.
Yeah.
We all have to get more vocal because that's the only way change gets made. Yeah. Otherwise, we're really slaves to the system.
I have a question.
Village thing too.
So do you feel do midwives give epidurals? That was my first question.
I'm glad can I answer that?
Yeah,
midwives,
Don't
if
ask
a
too many.
midwife works in the hospital, a certified nurse midwife works in the hospital most of the time, but they can work out of the hospital as well. It's their choice. It's their, depends. Absolutely, they can give epidurals.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But what I want to say is I'm so glad you asked that because people often think like, I don't want to do it out of hospital birth because I can't get that pain relief.
Right.
And you were talking about that.
Yes.
But I just want to say this. I've also had, my biggest baby was almost 9 pounds. And my babies have been from 6 to almost 9 pounds. It so really doesn't have to do with the size.
Really?
It really has things that can influence your birth is the position that your baby's in before birth. Also, whether or not you have pain relief. There's no judgment. I think pain relief is great when you need it. You want it. It's going to help things along. Pain relief meaning epidurals. I've help my clients get to the hospital to get an epidural because of however their labor was progressing. I knew that this was going to help them actually have a vaginal birth, right? So I have no judgment about epidurals. But what I will say is that sometimes when you're pushing on an epidural, you don't have that feedback loop from the sensations in your body to actually work with it and know how to kind of protect your tissues. So therefore, sometimes I have seen and I have heard, I don't have a study on this, that there are deeper tears when someone is pushing with pain relief because they can't control it. That sensation, those sensations that you're feeling are giving you the knowledge of how to push, how hard to push, what is too much. Imagine if you had like a giant poop you got to make.
Girl,
you got an epidural on your butthole.
I'm like, I'm so immature. I'm like, when like you got to do that's just like too big. You like, oh, hold on. This one's going to end up tearing the booty hole a little bit.
Exactly.
No, but I had all four of my children.
I
had all four of my children unmedicated. And I remember I don't know why that was like my biggest fear. Like I didn't want to poop while I was giving birth.
A lot of people have that fear.
It was so random. But then I was like, every time that I gave birth, it felt like I was pooping. I never pooped. But I was like, am I pooping? They're like, no, that's the baby's
I was about to say, every time you asked?
Every time I would ask.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I'm get this
that's what she was thinking about.
Yes, that's what I was thinking because the pressure is so intense.
Well, I just want you to know that is the normal sensation. It's not just you.
Right.
But when you think about your rectum and your vagina, they kind of live next door to each other.
Right.
And so you think about it like, Nate, that's again, like go back to how we were made.
Right.
Like literally, we're so beautifully made. If you never read a million years ago, was there a book on what's going to feel like when you push in? No. But it was like, okay, well, what we do every day, if we're lucky, is poop.
Right.
That part, if you're lucky.
We just talked about this. Start taking your 5 million green pills.
You got to pee every day.
Where did grandma feet come from today?
She comes in and out. You activating me. I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you now.
But that said, when you know that sensation, but you don't give birth every day, right?
No.
But you know that sensation.
Yeah.
And when that baby is moving down in your pelvis and moves down into your vagina, or from the inside part, that pressure that you feels exactly like pooping. And that helps us know how to get our babies out.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's all good. It's all good. But what I want to say is something that people don't understand if they're not going to, like, epidural is not the only form of pain relief.
Right.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
That what I think if you have to be confined to a bed, and some places, as ridiculous as that is, are still confining women. And like you have to lay down. No, you can't get out of bed. That's BS. But if you're confined, hell yeah, give me an epidural, because what physiologic birth intends for you to do is to be moving around.
Right.
Is to be moving around in all different types of positions. And that isn't necessarily promoted in the hospital, isn't necessarily, a lot of times you're going to have to be very strong to say, this is what I want. And also you're going to likely need good advocacy with your support people that are helping you do that. It's a whole thing. I mean, a lot of times I think psychologically, when you open the door to a hospital birth room, the focal point is the bed.
Right away.
Think about it.
And then big old lights.
Right. And I was just thinking, like, in our birth center, like, yes, we have beds in our birth room, but there's this big ass tub over there.
Yeah.
There's birthing stools, there's birthing balls, there's a fabric that hangs from the ceiling where you can hang, you can pull. Like there's a living room area there's a garden. I mean, like, that it's not giving you, you're going to be in that bed. It's giving you, like, look at all these different things you can try out. And also, like, props for hydrotherapy, which is just water. Mm-hmm. I mean, if half the women at the hospital could just really use the shower or really use the tub that they try to act like they're going to let you use, but they discourage you from using once you get in there.
Every time.
You'll be fine. And I mean, I'm talking a little bit in absolutes, and everyone is different. Yeah, so this is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone's story is different. So don't take it that way. But when I see a physiologic birthing process, what I see is the early labor or the signs of labor, the early labor, and then it gets intense, active labor, and then it gets more intense right before
you push it out.
You start to feel.
That's what I was going to say. When it hurts the most, it's probably time to push.
Exactly. And so what? And at the end of the day, is it even pain?
Well, honey, yes, it was.
Okay. Do you think that pain is the best word to describe the sensations you felt?
I'm going to tell you why. Because I did not have an epidural, but I went 42 weeks with all of my children. And because I had my children at hospitals, were like, you can't go past 42 weeks. And so they made me get induced and they gave me Pitocin. So I had all 4 of my children with Pitocin and no epidural. So I was
a rock star. You are a rock star.
Yeah, they start going boom.
I like pain a little bit. But
clearly
it was.
You can say I like pain a little bit
with a wink.
Winked.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I do. No, but also it makes me feel alive. I also had this aversion to being numb because I felt like that doesn't make me feel. I also have control. Like I want to be in control. So feeling pain makes me feel like I'm in control because it makes me feel like I'm alive and I'm experiencing it. And there was something very weird to me about being numb where I was like, that's just not an option for me because it just made me feel like that is supposed to hurt a little bit or I want to know that it hurts. For me,
yes, I totally
want to be clear.
You.
For me, I felt like it should hurt a little bit. Also, my mom had all 4 of her children without medication, so she was very like, "You won't have them babies. You don't need that stuff. You're fine." You know what I mean? So, but to be fair, my sister got an epidural, and she didn't want to get one at first, and it was painful for her. So my mom was like, "Do what you need to do."
Right.
But she knows me,
right.
And she was like, "Ashley, you will be fine."
Right.
And it hurt.
Well, what I want to say is that imagine if when it was hurting. You just got in a big old tub of warm water.
That's what I was going to say. So I asked my doctor if I could. I didn't know better the first time, right? Well, my mom kept telling me, but you know how when you're a kid and I was 24, but I didn't listen to my mom and I should have. And she was like, you don't have to lay. She's like, that's not natural. Like, you don't have to lay like that. And I was like, that's what the doctor said. You know, like I'm thinking my mom doesn't know more than the doctor knows, which is like misconception that we have in all areas of life, right? Like that we think that doctors know everything and they don't. So I'm like, well, mom, the doctor, like, this is what they said. I have to lay like this and push my legs up. She's like, well, that's probably why it hurts because that's not natural. That's not gravity. So the first time, and then obviously I learned more and more after that. And I was like, okay, I don't want to lay like this. But I remember with my last daughter, I was like, okay, I went in like, I'm not laying back. I'm not doing that. I already know how it feels. But she ended up flipping. Like literally, I think I was like at 4 centimeters and she just flipped. So she was upside down. So they were like, well, we need to make sure that she's not breached. So we need to turn her. So they gave me Pitocin and made me lay on my side with like this pillow thing between my leg to force her to turn during the contractions. But I couldn't move. So I'm literally like biting a hole into the mattress because I was like in excruciating pain because she's flipping inside of me. You know what I mean? So these things. So I ended up having her in a position that I didn't want to because they were so adamant about. And I have friends whose children were breached and they ended up having C-section. So then again, I didn't.
They thought she was breached.
They said she flipped all the way around again, right? And that's what I was going to tell you too.
Kim is giving the virtual side eye.
No,
just so you know, to the microphone.
That's why. No, I was going to say that's why it's so important. I feel. Even if you don't have a midwife, for every woman to have access to a doula, because what happens is even the strongest mind, I feel like for me, I am not a wavered type of person. I'm very strong in my beliefs and like, you're not going to tell me what to do. When you're giving birth to your baby, I feel like you become the most vulnerable you've ever been in your entire life. And so things that you know might not be right or things that don't feel intuitively right to you, when you have doctors in front of you telling you like, looking at machines and telling you stuff and checking you listen to them. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't feel confident to be like, I don't think that's right, blah, blah, blah. If it's just you or your husband and you don't have like another medical professional there saying like, hey, here's another option. You're going to listen to your doctor because you want your baby to come out healthy or safely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that brings home like the point of why for me this conversation is important because there is so much vulnerability. Right. And like you were saying, or at least the way it was worded was like, you know, if you don't have like another medical professional there, like, or a doula, right? like I'm hoping that we can have these conversations to help people understand that like you have options,
Right.
period. You can Google stuff. You can listen to the Mama's Den and then Google stuff. You know what I mean? You need to be following Kim and Allegra and Kindred Space LA on Instagram. You know what I mean? And, shameless plug / thank you to Kim for like being greatly a part of like everything that I know and understand about birth. But like we on blacklove.com have tons of articles on like the differences between midwife, doula,
Yes.
OB, what kinds of doulas are there. Like we have tried so hard to like really just put that information out there, in addition to like a lot of other sources. And Black Maternal Health Week, which takes place every year in April. And so there's tons of resources, but I feel like as a community, we're not talking enough. We complain a lot, right? And we talk about the fear, but we don't always talk about the solutions and the ways in which we can support each other.
Right.
So I just like, I hope that we, if nothing else, we're like leaving people with that.
Yeah.
Because that to me is like where the values and in the sisterhood of it all. Right. Like just like backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
I
like how she summed that up.
well, because I'm like, this is, I want people to feel
That's why
hope.
she's in the chair.
But also, and I want you to say I just want to say that there's everything that you're saying, Cody, and everyone that's going through this process deserves and needs support.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like just one type of support.
No.
Everyone's situation is different. But again, to your point, there are so many options. And honestly, if you just find a doula, they'll help you figure out your options. So maybe the first thing is find a doula. Doulas will also help you figure out like good care providers, whether you're going with a midwife or a physician or in hospital or out of hospital. I mean, that's really what they're there for. And they can help give you like a concierge experience. I keep saying concierge experience when it relates to how we at Kindred Space really treat and care for pregnant folks because I think I know that bringing another human life into the world with everything that's going to shift. When you talked about postpartum depression, that's a whole nother subject, anxiety, all the things, support that we need, just bringing another human life into the world isn't it like the most, like we're in the world as human beings. It's the most precious thing.
Yeah.
It changes everything.
Everything.
So why shouldn't every pregnant person have a concierge experience in getting from point A to point B and beyond? And beyond. Because we're talking about mood challenges, disorders, mental health in the postpartum, but there's even so much more than that. There's even just the physical health in the postpartum, right? And then how else this system that we're in the United States doesn't support us once we're parents. Right. I'm talking about we need Medi-Cal to pay for a nanny. How do all of these systems that we have to navigate? Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that it wasn't designed as in a place to be a place of empowerment. All these systems for women or people who identify as women or parents. This is a man's world.
Right.
That's it. White man's world. That's how it's designed. So everything that needs to change, you best believe we're going to have to change it.
Right.
We can't wait for nobody else to do this, y'all. And if it not in our lifetime, which I think we will change a tremendous amount of things in our lifetime, like at least for our kids. Right?
Wait, one more thing before we go. You said that doulas are now covered by Medicare, right?
Medicaid, Medi-Cal, I guess it's different.
I think that's important because I had different experiences with my first child. I was 24 and I was using CareSource insurance, which is in Ohio. I don't know if that's everywhere, but it's basically like government insurance, right? Like I wasn't on my husband's insurance and I had a horrible experience, and knowing how you birth when you have government assisted insurance versus your own personal insurance sometimes is completely different. So I think that also affects a lot of, especially young Black women who feel like, oh, I just have to get what's given to me and it's not covered to have someone advocate for me and to have that help. So making sure that we, figure out a way to equally share those resources beyond this episode for women who birth. I've had 2 different experiences of birthing, like one with money and one without. And it is very, very, different. Very different. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about, that's a whole nother topic, but you're absolutely right.
Right.
I think also to your point that if anyone out there is listening and they feel like they're that person that has, the least favorable insurance policy and maybe no money in their pocket or whatever the case may be, I just want you to know, like, honestly, like, don't give up. There are so many people out here that are really wanting to give you support. I have people contacting me all the time who are like, I want to be a free doula for somebody. I want to be there to support somebody who doesn't have money. Even if, let's say, a program that supports free doulas, like we have in LA, we have the Department of Health actually has a program for free doulas through the AIM program. So Black women can get a doula through the county for free, and that doula is paid pretty darn well.
That's amazing.
I will say that I just found out yesterday that they're at capacity for this year. The doulas they have all the clients they can take right now. So that said, regardless of any programs, there are people out there that really want to help, that are that got your back. We have social media. We have the internet.
Right.
Do your research. Do not feel discouraged. Like, you deserve the best. It's not about how much money you have in your pocket.
Right.
You are worthy because you're here.
Yes.
And just remember that and keep looking. You're going to find the support you need.
I love
Yeah. And honestly, do the research before you need it. And that's not like everyone can't do that. But like, if you're listening and you think you want to have a child, or you know somebody who might want to have a child,
Yes. Right.
like, give it a Google. You know what I mean?
Give it a
Like,
Google.
free doulas. Like, you will find something. You will find,
Right.
there's grants, there's all kinds of programs. But like, doing the research now before you need it
Yes.
helps you, like, when you do need it, feel better.
Yes.
Let's
You know,
Proactive
feel more
versus
empowered.
reactive.
Yeah.
You were going to say something and I cut you off. Is it
Ooh,
over
girl,
now?
that was like a long time ago.
Welcome to the Mama's Den.
we can
Bring it
do
home.
that.
Well, I just want to say one last thing about the pain relief, though. Can I?
Yes, of course.
I just want to say this for real, though. Two things I want to say. When I'm working with my clients and they're getting closer to their due time and they're like, oh, I've committed, I've paid the money, I'm having an out of hospital birth. A lot of times as they get closer, they're like, I'm afraid of the pain, right? So one, I want to say that pain is not a good word to describe the sensations that we feel in labor and childbirth, because in the English language, we only have this one word to describe every different type of pain. And I've had a horrible toothache, needing a root canal, and I'd rather give birth any day than have that.
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
And the other thing is that the sensations that we have in our body when we're birthing are really a guide for how to move the body. The baby's trying to, move, and we're trying to move, and we're working together. And when people have a knowledge of the process of birth, of labor and birth, whatever it is, it could be a cesarean, right? That if you have the knowledge of what's going to happen and how is this baby going to come out, how are you going to help me get this baby out? It's going to help you be more relaxed, less stressed, less worried, which therefore is also going to reduce the pain sensations, right? Because if you're tense and worried, everything feels more painful. But if you have an understanding of the process and you can lean into it, you can use your support systems that you have around you. What happens in birth, and what beautifully happens in physiologic birth, is that you release a lot of oxytocin hormone, which is the hormone that gets you contracting. It's also the hormone of orgasm, right? So you said you like pain, a little bit of pain,
And a lot of sex.
With a wink.
Pain
With a
and
wink.
pleasure walk very closely together.
Yeah.
And I think we have to change the
That's so
messaging
true.
around birth, because a lot of what we say about birth, it leads to people feeling more tense about birth.
Yeah, you're
like,
right, yeah.
are we talking enough about how amazing that experience
Yeah,
was?
no, it definitely is amazing
You know what I mean?
too. I should have said that. It is. It's just
but
scary, but it also is temporary. I think that's too for me.
temporary.
I'm like, this is only going to last for this little bit of time,
Right.
because, like you said, it hurts the most, or it's the most intense, and
Right.
then it's time to push, and then it's
Right.
literally over.
But
that's why I have 4 kids.
Right. Exactly.
Going back. It wasn't
Exactly. But that said, when those folks are in my practice are like, I'm really nervous about the pain, I also get to say, like, there's so many things you can do.
Right.
Like, you can walk, you can be massaged, you can have someone giving you counter pressure, you can be in the water, you can do all those things. And at the end of the day, my clients who have, like, successfully, I guess is the word, or have, like, achieved their goal of having an out of hospital birth with no meds, as they're going through the process, they're literally not complaining. They're not like having contractions like, oh yeah, this is too bad, I got to go to the hospital. They're not.
Yeah.
They're managing just beautifully. And as they get to the hardest part, which some of us think is the hardest part, depending on your feelings about it, which could be pushing, that point where you start to, the baby gets low and you feel like you have to bear down, you have to bring them out, there tends to be more vocalizations then, but when we're supporting birth physiologically, what it looks like is your loved ones are closer, your midwife is closer, you are the center of attention. The focus is on you. Your comfort is all that matters. We're fanning you. We're pouring warm water over you. We're praying over you. We're singing. You have the music, whatever you want. And really that sense of safety, that sense of trust allows birth and folks to let go and let it happen. And so to be in a space where there's trust, where the oxytocin that's flowing from your body is also flowing in our bodies, and we're just kind of in a cloud of love hormone, then can you really call it pain in that moment? At that point, it's the process that your body needs to get the baby out. And so for a lot of people, that's where we can have like so much ecstasy in it. And we don't talk enough about the ecstasy of it and the release and the joy and the, climbing Mount Everest and getting to the top and then, like sliding down back the other side.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, again, like this t-shirt says, right? Black birthing joy is our birthright. We have to kind of center a lot of that in, and even though we're talking about things that are so difficult and so dark and all the bad stuff that's happening, we have to let people know that there is hope and that birth is not a tragedy. Birth is not meant to be a tragedy. Birth is not a death sentence for Black women or people of color. And it doesn't need to be, doesn't have to be. We can change that. And we have to kind of do it all together.
Right. That's a good note to end on.
Word.
Ashe.
And that's the grandmama's dick.